All right, I'm back again, and it's a wonderful evening. And I have Cheryl Ilov from. Where are you from, Cheryl?
I am from Denver, Colorado.
Beautiful. And I actually had a chat with you. I had a great pleasure in chatting with you once before. Well, actually,
hmm
twice before.
Twice before.
And I really enjoy your story about how you became a middle-aged princess to a warrior woman or warrior queen. My apologies, warrior queen. And
Either one works.
yes. So let's jump into that story of yours that's right behind you that you've published, and
hmm
let's start the journey.
Okay. Well, where would you like me to start?
Well, so how does someone who's in a career professional mix with martial arts and become a warrior? Where does that take place, or what was the climax, or what created that what that change?
Well, I tell you, I was the last person anybody would ever expect to study martial arts.
Yeah.
I am, or was, I still am, I think, a self proclaimed middle aged princess. I like
Yeah.
the finer things in life. I studied ballet for many, many years. I still take ballet classes. I like the Pilates and pedicures and all the really fluffy things. I'm a very girly girl. So it was a real shock to find myself in the male dominated, testosterone infested world of men and martial arts. And I did not go willingly, and it's a long backstory. Actually, I met a man when I was 44,
Yeah.
and he was my acupuncturist.
Huh. Okay.
So, new acupuncturist. And I went to him because one of the clients I was working with, I'm also a physical therapist, recommended him because he did this wonderful work. She said shiatsu. So, it's just like the pressure points and stuff, and also acupuncture. And I am a huge fan of acupuncture. I've used it for myself for a multiple of different reasons and dysfunction. So the very first time I'm in his clinic, and
Mhm.
so I don't know him. This is the first time I've ever met him. And he started putting needles in my legs. And when he did that, he got a very far away look on his face. And he said, with your legs and my coaching, I could teach you how to kill with these things. And I
That's
thought,
not what you'd expect from an acupuncturist. That's
no,
most
well,
certainly
that's not what you would expect from anyone.
correct. Yeah, most certainly.
Yeah. So I'm lying there, and it's like I couldn't believe that anybody would think like that, let
Yeah,
alone say it out loud. And I thought, okay, I just need to grab my purse and run because this guy is crazy. And I realized I couldn't run because I had needles sticking out all over me, and I was literally
yeah.
pinned to the table.
Mm,
So I wasn't going anywhere.
hmm.
And I just thanked him, and I was like, appreciate it, but I think I'll save my killer legs for ballet class. So I'm really not interested in this. Well, every single time I went back for a treatment or a session, he would talk about his martial art incessantly. I mean, he would never shut up. He would just keep talking about the art of the ninja. It's Nimpo Taijutsu and how much he loved it. And I should really train with him. I'd be so good at it. And I'm like, I have no desire to ever study a martial art, ever.
Yeah.
And it took him 3 years
Oh wow,
until he finally wore me down. I know. And he calls me stubborn. I mean, it took him 3 years
it's a long time.
to,
It's a
it
long
is
time.
a really long time. And there is, of course, a backstory behind it. But I finally, after 3 years of listening to him badger me and harass me, and you have to take these classes, I finally said, okay, I will take some classes just to prove to you how much I'm going to hate it. And then I'll quit.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I thought so. And, he thought so too. Well, that's not exactly what happened.
Mm,
I didn't hate it. I
mm.
fell in love with the art, I fell in love with the training, and I really fell in love with the sense of strength, confidence, and empowerment that I got through the training. So basically, I didn't quit. And 10 years after I stepped on the mat, I became my teacher's first female black belt.
Oh wow, that's a big accomplishment.
It's a huge accomplishment, especially in that art and in that school and in that federation that I'm in. And I left out an important detail. I started training at 47. So
Oh
at the
wow.
age of 47, walking into this, and it's a very male dominated dojo. There are very
Mhm.
few women in the dojo. We have a lot more now than we did before. But yeah, I was so uncomfortable and so far out of my comfort zone that it was really, really hard because it takes an awful lot of courage and an awful
Mhm.
lot of trust to be able to walk into a male dominated, testosterone infested dojo and start training. And I had neither one. I had no courage, I had no trust, and I was just a broken person walking into that dojo and saying, okay, I'm going to let you guys do whatever you want. You can punch me, kick me, throw me, whatever.
Yeah. And did you go through, I guess, like before seeing him like doing acupuncture and whatnot, did you go through like a couple mental health challenges where you're like something's were off or wrong, or you're a little bit too depressed or anxious or stressed, and you're like, my life, ah, or did you not feel that way and you just was like, you know what, this whole martial arts was a massive mental health challenge right there, then and there?
Well, a little bit of both. And it was even worse than just everything was falling apart. And I was like, ah, it was really, really bad because just a few months before I met Mark, is his
Yeah.
name. Just a few months before I met him, I had a really traumatic experience. And, I'm a medical professional. I was a respiratory therapist for 20 years. And then I went back to school and got my master's degree in physical therapy.
Hmm.
And what happened to me is that I walked into a doctor's office just for a routine check when I was 44. So I
Yeah.
walked into the office as a healthy, vibrant, 44-year-old woman, and I walked out as a statistic. So basically, it was an assault.
Oh, okay.
And
That's
having gone through something like that, I mean, the just the shock and the horror, behind it, and especially, I'm not I was a smart lady. I had all of those years, over 20 years at that point in the medical profession, and I
mhm.
thought, just dealing with the shock and the horror of all of it. But the fact is, it's like if this is happening, or if he did this to me, if this happened to me, he's doing it to other women.
Oh, most certainly. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Most certainly.
and I'm sure it was nothing personal. I mean, he's a predator. That's what predators do. And he was the type of predator that didn't even have to go out and look for his victims. They came walking into his office. And he had the perfect cover because, well, as a doctor, he gets to do certain things. But I mean, it was so crazy. So
Yeah.
after that happened, I wanted, I'm an action based type of person, I take action, do something. So I wanted to make sure I reported it to help protect other
That's great.
women and keep them from going into his office and then get help for myself. Two things that I wanted to do.
Sure.
Well, I understand now why women do not report assault
Why?
because the
Why is that?
way because the way I was treated, even from the people that were closest to me, when I tried to report it and said I need help, it was just as traumatic, maybe even more so as the event itself. So
Mhm.
it was just incredible the things that how I was marginalized, I was denigrated. It was like, no, that can't happen. You're making it up. It must be something in your childhood that's just cropping up now. And I'm like, I don't think so. I'm pretty sure that's not it. And or
Pretty
that
sure
I
if
was.
someone does something with their hands or what they, it objectively, it's objectively, and yeah, that's pretty. It's sad that that process added more trauma and stress to that situation that you experienced.
Well, it did. So basically, what happened is after several months of trying to get help and trying to
Yeah.
report it, I just kind of stuffed it deep down inside and pasted a big smile on my face and went walking around pretending like everything was fine and nothing was wrong. And as you know, and people who are listening to this podcast, when you do that, eventually it comes flying out of you somehow, some
Pretty hard.
way,
Pretty
sometime.
hard. Yeah. Pretty hard.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
and hard and ugly. It is really ugly. And that's basically what happened to me. So it was about a year after I started seeing Mark for acupuncture that I was, re-triggered and it just came flying out of me. And so for some reason, even though I wouldn't tell anybody at that point because everybody would not listen to me and they just invalidated my story, I knew he would listen. There was something about him. I just realized, I just felt comfortable that he'd get it. So I
Yeah.
told him what happened. And when he, heard my whole story, he started treating me for some of the symptoms of PTSD. And then his campaign to get me on the mat went into high gear. And he kept telling me, this could really help you heal. There's such an incredible healing power in martial arts. And, this can help you get over it. And it can do so much for you. And I just kept looking at him and saying, I don't understand how hanging out in a smelly dojo with a bunch of sweating men is going to help me recover.
But you know what you're going through, you're getting the acupuncture done, and from what I know, like I got acupuncture done for trauma and stuff, and it does help. It does help you out a little bit in helping to heal. Or that's my
Mhm.
experience. What about your experience? Did the acupuncture actually help your body heal with the trauma, or no, not really?
Oh, it definitely does. I mean, and everybody's different, so I don't
Yeah,
know. And everybody's trauma is different,
of
and
course.
everybody's physiology and their response. But what for me, it was like I had that 1 hour and a half a week where that was the only place that I could completely let go and relax and
Mm.
feel that I wasn't hypervigilant. I didn't have to, the only thing I had to deal with was Mark talking about his martial arts, incessantly. And, but I was comfortable there. And it was the only time I could let my guard down, even though I had to listen to all these stories about martial arts.
So switching gears a little bit, so you become a black belt. For people that have never done martial arts before, and well, let's just say even for women or even men, they're like, hey, nah, that's not me. Like I am not that type of person. What skills did you learn out of that process of the martial arts that has helped you deal with your mental health in a different way?
There's something Yeah, I'm a physical person anyway, I always have
Yeah.
liked movement, but even somebody who's not physical, just some of the movement patterns that we learn and even like the postures, the way of holding yourself, standing, walking, and moving really grounds you. So, no matter what's going on, in your mind and you're just kind of like everything is just falling apart. That was another place I could go where when I went to Mark's clinic and when he did the acupuncture and stuff, that was nice, but he was treating me. When
Mm.
I went across the hall, because, it was a duplex and his dojo was right, across the hall from his clinic, it was different because I was like treating myself. I was taking my power back. And it
Mm.
didn't happen right away. It was a very gradual process. But, even the first 2 years that I was in the dojo, I was terrified. And I'll be perfectly honest. I would sit in my car in front of the dojo and I would have to talk myself into getting out of the car and going in. But once I was there, I was fine.
What were you terrified about? Or what were you
I,
like getting upset about or stressed about, I guess? Or
I was just worried about getting hurt because
fair
this is
enough.
something that was so different. Like I said, at that point, I had been a ballet dancer for 27 years, over 27 years of ballet training. So
Yeah,
that was,
combat is a little bit different, and you're the yeah. Wow.
yeah, a little bit different. Yeah, I mean, we I was just going to say nobody's really attacking you in ballet, but yeah, they are in a different way. The competition, even as adults, is really
Oh,
silly.
they're
It's just crazy.
fierce.
Ah,
Ballerinas are like crazily,
ah.
and they're super jealous and like I've seen some like yeah. I knew a couple of friends when I was in high school that did ballet, and like they did some audition, and some girl nudged her, and she fell, and she lost the main part, and I was like, dirty, dirty.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I always call it, like the ground glass and the point shoe.
I like
Because
that.
I
I like
I
that.
actually read a book one time, and that's what one of the competition did to like the prima ballerina or the one woman who was probably going to get the lead. They put a little bit of ground glass in her point shoe, so when she put the toe shoes, yeah, I mean toe shoes are painful enough without the
Yeah, I know.
ground glass, but
I've seen how people's toes. I've tried it. I'm like, no, there's no way. That. So I guess okay. So thinking about it now, the the level of I guess focus and skills in physical or the physicality and the mentality of ballet itself, which some people don't even know. Like it's a lot. It's not. It's more prettier. It's a lot more brutal than it is pretty, I think. But I think that what is your take that you've taken some of those really good skills that you've learned and added into the martial arts, and that has given you that propel factor where you're like allowed your body and allowed your mind to get through some maybe hurdles that maybe some people wouldn't normally?
I don't think so. I actually
Okay.
think that the ballet kind of was counterproductive because
Oh,
the only
okay.
thing that I was used to pain. I will put it to you that way.
Okay.
But in ballet class, the pain is pretty much self-induced, so I can control how much pain I can handle. But you're working with a partner, and you're
Yeah.
working with different partners. And because I was most of the time I was the only woman there, I was working with, all men. And I had to trust them to be able to do the things, all the techniques on me, but to do it slow enough and gentle enough, and give me a chance to react appropriately. And that's probably one of the biggest benefits that I got, was to learn how to trust again. Although
Hmm.
even prior to the assault, I mean, I never really had, I'm a suspicious person. I'm not very
No,
trusting, just
fair
but
enough.
to meet somebody and say, yeah, okay, we'll partner up, we'll play. And it's very, we're not just punching and kicking.
Hmm.
There's an awful lot of grabs. There are body grabs, there are chokes, neck
What kind of
grabs.
martial arts are you the black belt in, or is that all right to ask? Because I know there's
Oh
different
sure.
types.
Oh sure, yeah. It's called Nimpo Tai Jitsu.
Nimpo Taijutsu. Definitely.
N-
That's very interesting.
Nimpo Tai Jitsu, the art of the ninja.
Huh. So you've got your black belt. Now, what made you want to craft and create that beautiful book behind you that you've written? Well, what made you decide to go, you know what? I want to be an author. Why not? Let's give it a go.
Well, that's another story. But even before I ever thought, or the possibility of becoming an author, it was probably maybe my second year of training. So I was
Yeah.
through probably the second year, that I would just shake my head in class and look at Mark and say, I'm going to write a book.
Mm.
And I never said it thinking that I would, because I wasn't an author. I wasn't a writer. I was a physical therapist. Why would I write a book?
Hmm.
But, and stories, the stories just kept in my head, just kept adding up, because some of the stories were just hilarious. I mean, it was kind of like the little middle-aged ballerina in a room full of cavemen, and I didn't even know how to talk to them at first, or how to communicate, because my world was so much different. And they're looking at me like I just came, was dropped out of outer space, because I was so different from the women that would come to the dojo. Because the other women that would come were a lot more, they were tougher, they were more sturdy. I was a little bit, I was pretty thin at the time, and they
Yeah.
were really wanting to learn this stuff. And I was like, I'm only in it for, I'm not in it for the long run. I just want to learn a few techniques, and then don't mess up my makeup, and then I'm going to be out of here in a couple of weeks.
So Now, so now another question that's come to mind is like, so talking about mental health and talking about people that maybe are going through anxiety or depression, what are some things that you know, I mean, are skills that you are has helped you out? You're going, hey, those guys just need to work on their breathing, or like what you said, posture. Is there any other
Mhm.
things that have helped you with your mental health for our audience right now? Of like, hey, I'm in a sticky situation. I'm just depressed. I don't want to get out of bed, or I can't get out of my
Mm.
house because you know what I mean, I'm too scared. I don't, you know, I look at the mirror and I'm scared, or the self judgment. Is there anything else other than how we look, and not how we look, but how we
Right.
our posture that has really truly helped you in this whole becoming a ninja process?
Self-talk is huge because there were so many times that, getting out of bed was just like climbing Mount Everest. It's
Mm,
like I don't have the energy. I don't have the wherewithal. I can't face people. But just, you know, talk to yourself even as you're lying there and convince yourself that even just to get out of bed and go make yourself a cup of coffee. And when you do that, celebrate. That's a
mm,
big deal. Getting out of bed and walking into the kitchen and getting a cup of coffee, to people who have never dealt with any mental health issues, it's like, well, that's no big deal. You can do that in your sleep. It is a big deal. Every little tiny thing, even just washing your face in the morning or taking a shower or putting on some makeup or, shaving. And if you don't do it, that's okay too. But just try and turn that narrative around a little bit and find something that you can kind of just, I don't want to say cling to, but something that you can reach for that really encourages you to get out of bed. There were a lot of times, and I even said that in the book, that, I was seeing a therapist. And at one point he said to me, because I would go to the dojo, a lot of times I'd have an appointment after I was working out. And
mm.
he looked at me one time and he said, because I was like, I just don't want to do anything. I don't want to get out of bed. And he says, I said, I went to the dojo even though I didn't feel like it. And of course, in that soft, slow talking therapist voice, he says, oh, I really admire you for going and, getting out of bed and going to the dojo, even if you didn't feel like it, even if you're not feeling well. And I looked at him and I said, if I waited until I felt like it, I would never get out of bed.
Yeah, that's like me with the gym or like working out or you know what, just doing the harder tasks. Like sometimes I'm just like, oh, I don't really feel, but when I'm doing it, it's like I'm in the mood. I got the music. I'm in like, but it's getting there. It's moving that wheel or moving that car, and you're like, oh, and then as soon as you're there, it's like it's another story, right? So.
Exactly. And just the hormones that are going through your body and the blood flow and your brain just kind of lights up just moving, and
Mm,
just kind of get there. Once you're there, there's even times now, because of course I'm still training 3 days a week, but there's
awesome.
times it's like, oh, thank you. I think so. Where it's like, oh, I just don't feel like it. I'm tired, I'm cranky, blah, blah, blah. And I'll just go to the dojo. It's like, oh, I don't even feel like it. I'm just gonna, do a few rolls. And then before you know it, you're just in the zone, and your body and your brain, your mind is all working together. And that's the power of movement. So it doesn't have to be martial arts. It could be like you going to the gym. It could be going to a dance class. It could be doing yoga. Even if you're doing it, by yourself, because some people prefer to work out alone, and that's great.
Man.
I like
That's
being
me. I
around.
don't like working out with people. I'm, I be, it sounds bad, but I become angry. Like I know this is weird. It's like I just like have this like it's not negative self-talk, but it's like cursing myself a little. Like, come on, you like. And my partner like listened to me doing a workout. She's like, "Is that how you talk to yourself?" And I'm like, to me, it's like just motivating. It's sort of like David Goggins. He's just like push harder, stop like that weak side of your brain. I mean, those different things that I try to implement. I'm not saying it's the prettiest thing, but it does the job for me, and it works quite well when I do it quite well. So
It works for you, and
Yeah.
that's another point. It's, we all have different ways of finding our path, and if something is working for you, you know, definitely keep using it. But if you're trying that, that kind of rah-rah talk and it's not working, it's like, okay, try
Yeah.
something else.
Yeah, 100%. So I
Mhm.
guess one last thing before we go is for people that are just getting to know who you are and what you're doing and the way you're helping out the world, if they're trying to get a hold of you, how can we get a hold of you?
Probably the easiest way is just to go to my website. You can contact me through that. It's just CherylIlov.com. You can look me up on LinkedIn. I'm
We'll
on
have
LinkedIn.
all the links below this wonderful video. So everything to contact you, you will definitely will have all that beautiful information. But I really appreciate your time, Cheryl. Thank you so
Oh,
much. And
thank you so much for having me.
all right, have a fantastic evening.
You too. Thanks a lot, Chris.
Bye bye.
Bye.